Hello, this is Michael Hale from the White County Public Library, and with you today I've got John Powell.
Hi, how you doing?
Good to see you, John. John is a staple of the community here in Sparta and White County, and we're just going to talk to him a little bit today about his interesting life. So John, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you know, back in the 60s they called us hippies.
Okay.
And a lot of people really misunderstood that word because being a hippie really meant promoting peace and love and understanding.
Okay.
And so I'm proud to say I was a hippie.
Are you still a hippie?
I'm still a hippie at heart for sure. And now I think, you know, that along with my love for music and stuff has set me on a path that's been quite a fun ride so far.
Okay. Would you tell us a little bit about how you got started in music?
Well, you know, when I was a little boy, my mom and dad had a car, of course, and we'd go to the grocery store. I didn't really care about going in there, so I'd sit in the car. Daddy had a metal flashlight in the glove box, and I would get that flashlight, turn the radio on, and play like that flashlight was a microphone.
Okay.
Sing along, and I'm sure it was awful. But I really enjoyed it and really loved music. And when I was about 10 years old, my dad bought me a little transistor radio, had one little earplug.
Right.
When they told me to go to bed, I'd get that little radio under the cover and I'd stick that little earplug in and I'd tune in to WLS in Chicago and listen to all the little pop songs that were becoming popular then, and it just said, this is for me, this is what I want to be. I just knew right at 10 or 11 years old, I knew I wanted to be a musician.
Okay. And what did you start out playing?
Well, originally I wanted to be a drummer.
Okay.
And I was terrible. I really was. I mean, I wasn't made to be a drummer, but that's what I had originally wanted to be. And when I was in the 7th grade, Carl Ballinger had just moved to Sparta and become the band director, and I joined the beginning band. So the first day of band, he said to me, "What are you gonna play?" I said, "I'm gonna be a drummer." He said, "No, you're not gonna be a drummer. You're too big, you got too much wind. You need to be a tuba player."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm not carrying one of those big things around the football field for the next 6 years."
Okay.
So I said, a friend of mine left a trombone at my house. I'll be a trombone player. Well, that was a good day for me because at the time, which was the early 60s, so much of the music, like Motown and stuff, was popular, and they had horn parts in them. So that helped me get started in a little band called the Jades. 1965, I'd been seeing them play at little dances and stuff.
Right.
I just wanted to be a part of that real bad, but didn't ever really expect to get to.
Right.
Well, anyway, they asked me to join the band along with a guy named Lynn England. He was a trumpet player.
Okay.
So they had a little horn section going, and we'd practice and learn the little parts to the songs and stuff.
Right.
That's kind of how it all got started.
Now, you're most well known, I know you from playing bass.
Right.
When did you pick up the bass guitar?
Well, in 1967, the bass player in that little band, the Jays, got drafted and went to Vietnam.
Okay.
I had a bass guitar, which I knew very little about, but I got elected to be the bass player because I had a bass and he was gone. So at that point, the horns left the band and I became the bass player.
Very good, and you stuck with it.
So I stuck with it. Well, it's been 52 years.
Do you still play trombone?
I don't have a trombone and I haven't picked one up in decades. But I've been thinking about getting one at a pawn shop for $50 and just seeing how awful. I could probably make the cat leave the house or whatever.
So, where did music take you in life?
Oh my goodness. It's been quite a journey, you know. I mean, at a very early age, we would travel Well, from between Knoxville and Nashville, primarily in Huntsville, Alabama, on the weekend to play little dances and stuff, and that got me started in the late 60s. I got to actually go on tour playing, and pretty much was the Southeast at that point.
Right.
And we would go up into Virginia and Washington, D.C. and New York and places too. And that was a lot of fun and got me started on that road. But like you have heard others say, I'm sure, the road gets tiresome after. It's fun for the first few months.
Yeah.
So in 1971, I had it. Wanted to come home. I'd eaten nowhere primarily but McDonald's for years.
Okay.
Sleep in the back of my old van, going to New Orleans to play the night or whatever, I was tired of that, so I came home in September, and that's how I got in radio.
Okay. And
Because,
what did you do in radio?
Well, I had a friend named Herman England that was on the radio here in Sparta.
Okay.
And a friend of mine named Doug Watts had told me about they were taking applications at Mallory Timers. He had been working there. He said, if you'll come over and put in an application, I'll try to help you get a job. Needed a job.
Right.
So we're going across town, turned the radio on, heard Herman England on the radio, and I thought, before I go put in an application, I'm going up to WSMT,
Let's try this.
see Herman for a minute.
Yeah.
So I did. When I walked in the door, Van Slack, who was the owner at the time, he came up to me and said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm looking for a job. But I didn't mean at the radio station. I mean, I was going to go over and put in an application at Mallory. He said, well, Ivy Hillis has been elected to the legislature. He's going to be leaving for 6 months. Let's go in my office and talk, and I'll hire you to take his place. But he said, I'm going to tell you right now, when he comes back in 6 months, you're going to be out of a job.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have any better offers, so I said, I'll take it. Well, in the meantime, of the 6 months he was gone, WSMT went from being an AM station to also having an FM license.
Okay.
So Van came to me and he said, you're doing a pretty good job. He said, we're going to start this FM station, and if you want to, you can just stay on and run it. So that's how I got into radio, purely by accident.
Wow. That's a happy accident.
That's a happy accident, and it's been a very fun career. I love being on the radio.
How long were you at the radio station?
A total of probably about 20 years, 2 or 3 different times.
2 or 3 different times.
I'd be on for a few years, then I'd get bored with it and want to do something else.
And you've also got a history in the food industry.
I do.
And could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in 1976, I was tired of the radio business and tired of that because I didn't feel like I had any real room to grow there financially and so forth. Wanted to do something a little more. So I rented a building over on North Main Street and remodeled it and started a little delicatessen called Super Subs.
Okay.
That thing took off like a rocket. I mean, the first day we opened, I was expecting I might have 5 or 6 customers.
Yeah.
There were people lying down the sidewalk to the courthouse to get in. Really, it just took off. It was great. And that's how I originally got interested in the food business.
Okay. And you did some catering and things that led you to some interesting
Oh, my goodness. When I owned the Second Act Deli, because of my music career and people I knew in Nashville, I was able to make a deal with Sony.
Okay.
And Sony was #1 publisher in the country music business for like 20 years. And every time they would publish a #1 song, they would throw a big party, and they called them #1 parties.
Okay.
So they made a deal with me to cater all the #1 parties. But the first year, they had 20 #1 hits. So that was really a good thing for me.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you something about all that. There's a lot of hard work in the food business.
Right.
You know, if you don't like to clean restrooms, scrub toilets, run the vacuum cleaner, wash dishes, don't get in the food
Don't do
business.
it.
But it was very fun, and I got to meet a lot of really big country music stars catering for those parties.
What are some of the highlights of the people you met?
George Jones, Tammy Wynette, Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson. There's just been a ton of them.
Mm-hmm. Any interesting stories?
Well, one of my favorite things is our hot dogs called John Dogs. It has nothing to do with me. It's from John's place in Cookville, where they got that name. So when I would cater these parties, they would want a big variety of food, and usually I would take some John Dogs and some chili and stuff to go on them. So Alan Jackson comes through the line at a party I'm catering for him when he had Down on the Chattahoochee as #1 hit. And he said, man, I love those things. He said, here's the keys to my truck. It's that silver one sitting right over there. My wife won't let me eat hot dogs. He said, fix me about 3 of those with chili and onions and jalapenos. Put them in the front seat of that truck over there. I'm going to slip over and eat them. So, I was thinking to myself, if I was Alan Jackson, I believe I'd eat hot dogs if I wanted to, you know.
He's got a wife.
Yeah, there was a lot of great stories and met a lot of great people, and they're all so nice.
Yeah. It
was lots of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Are you still playing any?
I do. I still play. I still do a little recording from time to time with somebody, and I have been a part for the last couple of years of a little local band called Sugar Tree with Dita Judd and Caleb Matthews, and we'll be playing at the Steel Coop and different places. We play at the Coffee Collective and different places around, you know, just little fun things, weddings and different. Yeah, I love it. I'm never going to quit playing, even if it's just at home.
Yeah. Could you tell us about your favorite show you've ever been to or played?
Well, I was very fortunate to have been to so many concerts over the years, and Woodstock, of course, would come to the forefront of all those big shows, and seeing groups like Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin, and going to the Atlanta Pop Festival in 1969. And, I mean, there's just so many. And then when I got on the radio, one of the things that we did was give away concert tickets.
Okay.
So I'd always snag me a couple.
Yeah.
And go to the show, you know. And I love it.
Would you tell us a little bit about your favorite gear that you play, your guitars and your amps?
Well, I've been lucky to have some nice equipment through the years. I owned the very first Fender 5-string bass, had a serial number of 0001.
Wow.
Most bass guitars, well, all electric bass guitars up to that point, by the way, that was 1968 when I acquired that.
Okay.
And to that point, all bass guitars primarily were 4 strings. There weren't any electric 5-string basses. So I stumbled along into Hughley's Music Store down on Commerce Street in Nashville. It's not there anymore. It was sort of a hangout of mine when I was that age. Had some friends that worked there. I walked in there one day, and my friend Sam Pugh said, look what we got, 5-string bass. Well, I ended up buying that thing. $369, case and all.
Yeah.
Which at the time seemed like a lot. You know?
Right.
We were playing a show out in Donaldson that night, and that's what I was doing in Nashville, so I went and played that thing. Of course, I was lost because I had an extra string. But at that time, we didn't know anything about tuning that extra string because it was so new that they had that bass tuned, so the extra string was higher.
Okay.
Well, bass is all about low notes.
Right.
Later on, long after that, they decided to make the extra string a low note.
Yeah.
And I never did tune mine that way because I didn't know how, didn't know to.
Right.
And another part of that interesting story about that bass is that when I got home, the next day, Hughley's was calling, saying we made a mistake. We weren't supposed to sell that bass, and we got to have it back. I said, I bought it, I paid for it, you're not getting it back.
That's mine. Yeah.
And so I kept it for about 2 years.
Okay.
They just kept on making better offers to get it back.
Right.
Eventually I got a Gibson guitar, a new trombone, and some cash money to bring that bass back down there.
Wow.
Fender was hot that they had sold it. It was sent to Nashville for the first fanfare.
Okay.
It was just supposed to be on display.
This is not a production model. This
Right.
is a one-off. Okay.
So that's the story about that bass. Also, I ended up with one of the first Ampeg SVT Rolling Stone amplifiers.
Right. I've heard this. This
I
was
still have it. I actually bought 2 of them at Manny's in New York. They were made in 1969 for the Rolling Stones tour. There was 8 of them. They took them out on the road. They brought them in. I just happened to be at Manny's, and they said, we're going to sell these if anybody's interested. Well, I called my dad and borrowed $3,700 and bought 2 of them. And in '74, I sold one of them to a friend in Jamestown, and I still have the other one.
That's amazing.
And instead of having a schematic diagram,
Right.
I actually got the engineer's blueprints
Wow.
with my amps, and there was all these little notations where on such and such date we changed this capacitor or
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's really cool. Well, John, is there anything you still want to do? I know you said you've got a band right now. Is there anything you still want to do that you've not done in your life?
Well, musically, I guess I would say the one thing I'd like to do is be better tomorrow than I was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Never quit practicing.
Yeah.
And there's so many talented musicians in our world that, you know, out of 100,000, 999,000 of them are way better than I'm ever going to be. I realize that, and I respect that, but to keep trying
Right.
to do more, learn more, be better,
It's a great outlook.
you know, is hopefully where I'm headed. I still love it just as much as I ever did. There's parts of it I don't do so well anymore, which is like driving home from Knoxville at 2 o'clock in the morning by myself in the rain or something.
Yeah.
At this age, that's probably not smart, but I can't seem to quit. I don't ever want to quit, you know.
That's wonderful. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the people of White County and Sparta?
Well, everybody has their own particular talents and skills.
Mm-hmm.
Some ladies make the best loaf of bread you ever tasted. Some guys mow the lawn and it looks pretty.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. Some people sit down at the piano and mesmerize you, and some people take a brush and paint what they're seeing out there and it looks exactly like it. And I mean, everybody though has a talent.
Right.
And I've always said that if you can find something to do in life that you love truly,
Mm-hmm.
and just can't get enough of, you'll never work a day because you're always doing something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
All those years I was on the radio, many nights I would play till 1 in the morning, drive home from Nashville or Cookville or wherever, and be on the radio at 6. And I never dreaded it because I was excited about getting to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Communicating with the people on the radio, giving away the t-shirts, the concert tickets, the albums, the CDs, the caps.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
To me, that was so fulfilling, is to doing for others and trying hopefully to present a positive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Pursue that. Be kind to people. promote peace,
Yeah.
and love and understanding.
Yeah.
Those are the things I want at this age in my life.
That's a wonderful outlook. And
Well,
I just want to thank you so much for coming in, John. And as I said, you're a staple, a fixture of White County.
well, I don't know about all that. I appreciate it and feel honored to have been asked. And I hope in some small way that not only this will help create some spark plug going off in some person's head
Right.
that makes them have such a happy ride as I've had.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you all for tuning in today. Again, this is John Powell, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
you.